Welcome to episode number 402 of Get Paid for Your Pad. I'm here with my co-host, business partner in crime, Eric Miller. What's up, Eric? How's it going?
Yo. Doing good, man. Doing good.
How do you like my background here?
Yeah, it's a good green screen there.
So if you are listening to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or any of those other places where you can just listen to the audio, I recommend you go to YouTube and search for Get Paid for Your Pad on YouTube and check out my background in the video here because it's pretty awesome.
Wait, where are you again? Dominican Republic?
I am in the Dominican Republic, and what's really cool about this spot is this is one of the top 5 locations for kite surfing in the world. So I'm in a place called.
There's one right there.
There's one behind me. I know that's what I'm talking about. That's what's really interesting, and this is a good tip for anybody who has an Airbnb listing. The reason that I picked this Airbnb was 100% because there was a photo with a kite surfer in the background. And that's, I wanted to go kite surfing here, as well as my friends. I'll talk more about who I'm with here, but the main reason why we wanted to come here is to kite surf. So when I saw that photo on the Airbnb listing with a kite surfer literally in the background, I was like, all right, that's where I'm staying, because I can literally see in the photo that people are kite surfing there, and that's what I want to do.
Hey, the host clearly knows their guest avatar.
Exactly.
He knows how to speak to them.
Exactly. And it's interesting because we're staying at a luxury condo, and it's an incredible place. The decoration, everything, the design is great. Amenities are great. The only thing that I find a bit odd is that their communication is very, very basic. And they have one of those really old looking like booklets with like local information. So if they would have just sent me like a online Hostfully guidebook or something, I would have been able to go through all the information on the plane, which would have really helped, because now like you check into the Airbnb and now you have to go for all this information of like, where can you find stuff and the local recommendations. And so it's kind of interesting to see that it's such a luxury condo and they're doing almost everything right. But then the communication, there's a lot to improve there. So.
Got it. Yeah, man. I mean, can't beat Hostfully guidebooks, right?
That's, I know
they're a game changer.
They're definitely awesome. So today, what I want to talk to you about, Eric, is kind of the process that we are going through currently with the acquisition of the new property. Like, I've been getting some questions from people who are saying like, "Hey, this sounds really cool. I want to purchase my own project, or I want to purchase my own Airbnb in the future." And like what does that process look like, from finding the deal, figuring out what you want to buy, to the due diligence, making an offer, like who's involved, what are some things that we have to keep in mind when we're going through that process. So what do you think? Should we dive into that?
Yeah, let's chat about it. It's been a massive learning lesson for me. At least, I've bought a lot of real estate in my real estate career, and this one is the most interesting, from buying the short-term rental business to buying the land with the 4 units to buying the vacant land, all of that. It's been a really interesting process, and this is actually the first property I've ever bought in California. So that experience alone has been freaking eye-opening. But yeah, I mean, the more we share about this story, more and more people are reaching out saying like, "Oh, I have this idea that I want to do the same thing. I want to get into experience-based short-term rentals. I want to build tiny homes. I want to build tree houses." Like, this is definitely the next, in my opinion, the next boom that we're going through in short-term rentals. Even my friends that own different businesses and different brands that are not in short-term rentals want to create experience-based short-term rental communities. So yeah, it's been eye-opening. So I'd love to dive into it. We have a lot of learning lessons that we experienced over the last week and a half. But crossing our fingers, we're supposed to close next week. But some stuff came up, and we potentially might be closing at the end of the month, if not into October. So we'll see. Yeah. But where do you want to start? Where
Well,
should we take that
first of
conversation?
all, you mentioned this is your first time buying something in California. Is it very different between this different states?
Yeah. So here in the States, yeah, every state has different laws on how to buy and sell real estate, right? So, and to to buy property through a seller that has a real estate agent, you have to be licensed in that state, and working with an agent in that state. So yeah, every state has its own laws and way of purchasing and selling property. My whole career buying real estate was on the East Coast in New Jersey, and over there you do everything with attorneys, right? So we have an attorney, we pay an attorney to represent us, and they go through the contracts, they negotiate, they come to terms, all that stuff, and really make sure that the process is legally what you agree upon with the seller. Here in California, that's not the norm. And I knew that, but this is the first time that I'm actually dealing with what's called an escrow company, who handles the escrow of the purchase. So it's on us to go through all the contracts and understand everything. And again, this being the first property we bought in California, it's a brand new experience for me. And on top of that, this is the first time I'm buying a actual business, right? So that is a whole experience within itself here in California.
Yeah, that's right. Because we're not just buying the land and the units. We're actually buying, it's an existing Airbnb business, and
Yep.
we're buying everything that is related to the business. What are some of the learning lessons for you, like going through this process?
Yeah, so I think right now we got to be really patient. I mean, this is one of the first lessons I learned in real estate. One of my first mentors when I was 17, she taught me that you never get emotional in real estate. Never get emotional in real estate. You have to buy on logic. You have to buy on numbers, right? It has to make sense. It's an investment. Where people go wrong in investing in real estate is getting emotional during the process, right? I just have to, like, you and I put so much effort into buying this property already, from getting investors on board to sharing it with our communities to running the numbers and building the brand. And, there's a lot, and we've invested, some money into the inspections and everything else that we've done for this property. At this point, if this deal would to fall apart, it would be extremely emotional for us, right? So in that stage, like, I find myself, not that we're risking that, but we're negotiating with the seller on a handful of different things. And we're weighing our options of, like, what's the worst case scenario here. And I think a lot of times people will get emotional and just say, I have to buy this property. We're so deep into it, or this is the property that I've been waiting for. You and I've been working on this the vision has been to buy real estate since the day that you and I started working together. But this model, this brand, is something that we've been talking about and planning for a year, right? So we're here, and it's like, I find myself getting emotional of saying, like, oh, that's okay, we'll still buy it. Like, we've got to buy this property, right? Or getting emotional of, like, I shouldn't get involved this deep into this property. So what I'm trying to say here is, like, the biggest learning lesson that I'm going through is learning how to manage my emotions on negotiating the terms, on really coming to term with this property. I see a lot of people overpaying for real estate. And I think that I see a lot of people overpaying for real estate because they're so emotionally attached to the outcome. And I think that's been a big learning lesson for me, coming back to it, of, like, saying we have to be on the same page with our partners. This has to make sense now and in the long haul, and not just buy it because it's the only opportunity that it's a perfect opportunity, right? It's exactly what we're looking to buy. It's an existing short-term rental business that we can step into and improve immediately. Plus, there's room for us to build 10 more cabins, right? In the center of my dream town, of where I've developed this vision of building this type of business, right literally everything is perfect. Everything is perfect, which is crazy. So I can find myself getting emotional in the process. All of that came along during one of the craziest real estate markets I've ever experienced, right? Like we made an all cash offer on this property and gave $50,000 above asking on this property to get it locked in. We didn't negotiate any repairs on the property. We're like, we'll buy it as is. We'll take just going all in on it. And there was like 7 or 8 other offers on this property when we made the offer. So my whole point here is like, we're going through such a crazy time in real estate in the market where you're seeing multiple cash offers. Properties are, being listed and off the market within a couple of days. So I think people can get super emotional of trying to attach themselves to the right deal that they tend to get themselves into the wrong deal. Right. So I think that's the biggest lesson that I'm coming up with. Yeah. So yeah, feedback on that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny because as you're describing that, I'm thinking that's exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Like if this deal were to not go through, I'd be extremely disappointed.
Yeah. It sucks, right? It would suck. But at the end of the day, it's an investment, right? The business has to make sense, right? So not, again, just for the audience, not that this deal is falling apart at all, but what I'm noticing is when there is challenges that are coming up, I tend to think like, oh, let's just make it work so we can buy this property. We just can't do that for our brand, for, especially for our students, right? Like we're teaching them how to build real professional businesses. And if we make decisions based on the wrong emotion and for our investors, all this stuff, it could be dramatic. It could impact our vision here dramatically. Right. So we have to stay cool. We have to stick to the vision. We got to not get lost in the certain circumstances of the investment and make it work for everybody. And if not, be willing to let go. And Samantha always has this thing. It's like this or something better. Right. So if it's not this, we're going to find something better. Right. So yeah, that's just been a personal thing I've been working on dealing with this property in this purchase over the last few weeks.
Yeah. You mentioned it's your favorite mountain town. We're not going to disclose yet what the exact location is until we close on the deal. But having said that, somebody who just joined Legends X and somebody who's been listening to this podcast since it started, actually guessed it.
Yeah. We put that out there on the last podcast, right? Yeah, he joined Legends X just yesterday, and he's like, "Is this the town?" And I'm like, "Yep, that's it." So, but yeah, and we'll release that. Obviously, we're still in the process of buying this property, so we just want to kind of respect the owner and the location and their business. And once we close on it, we're going to be not only talking about it on this podcast, but content wise, documenting the entire process. Because what I'm excited about the most here, man, is and I forgot to tell you this. I've spent over the last like 3 or 4 days, the last week, I've spent like $300 to $400 on different books about like tiny homes and cabins and unique designs and all this stuff, branding, because I'm just obsessed with the opportunity of going into an existing short-term rental community and rebranding the experience, recreating the experience, taking that to the next level, inputting our technology, right? So we were asking during the negotiation process with the owners, we were asking like, hey, what technology do you have, right, running your properties? And she's like, no, we're mom and pop. We don't have systems. We don't have technology. We don't have any of that. And we recognize like, oh, from day one, if we upgrade the photos, upgrade the Airbnb listing, include some technology, include some systems, we could raise the prices on this property 10 to 20% without having to really do anything more than what I just explained, right? Which is incredible. And then we start looking at adding more units. We start looking at upgrading the property, upgrading the brand. And now we've created something that is unique, but then also has a lot of equity when it comes to the guests. So I'm excited about the whole process.
Yeah. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I'm sure people are listening to this and they're thinking, well, how do you actually recognize if something is a good deal or not? Right? Because obviously the seller, obviously the real estate market is pretty hot. So, there's no, it's not like you can scoop up like underpriced properties, left and right. It's not like that at all. I mean, the price to the seller probably makes sense given how much they are making on the property right now, but it's those efficiency gains and that extra income that we believe we can make, because we are going to run that property more efficiently. We're going to create a higher level experience that's going to allow us to charge more, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of interesting to me as well. I think one of the questions that we asked the seller was if she had any like SOPs, like standard operating procedures and systems that she could transfer to us. And then her response was that she wasn't sure what that was. She wasn't sure what an SOP is, essentially. And then same with the technology. We're like, what kind of industry specific technology are you currently using? And the answer was none, right? Which and I don't know, it's kind of shocking to me in a way.
Well, I mean, what you just said is like, how can you tell where the value is? Like, what is a good deal? That this is one of the highest priced properties in this market, and we offered $50,000 above asking, and we're paying all in cash, right? That's a hell of a deal. We wiped away most contingencies upon a couple small little things here and there. So we're trying to buy this thing as easy as possible, take it over, all that stuff. But where the value is us being able to upgrade the full experience of the business, right? So I think what we're going to see, and this is something like we had 150 people apply over the last 2 weeks for Legends X, right? And the applications are still coming in on this. And I've talked to most of them, and everybody I speak to has this desire of going into these marketplaces, like these secondary marketplaces, and creating these cool experiences, creating unique experiences. That's everybody I'm talking to wants to do this. And when I'm explaining to them is like, this is the value. This is what we can do now that the short-term rental industry has moved away from urban apartment buildings, which we've seen all the way up to the COVID era. Now all the demand is going inward to mountains and lakes and deserts and beaches, and people are desiring cool experiences. And now we get to have fun with creating these cool experiences. So the biggest value in our industry, and this is what I'm excited to do with our brand, is like when we create the fund and we're able to buy up properties all around the country, and then eventually in different countries over the next couple of years, we're going to be looking at secondary markets. We're going to be looking at old properties that have been running as short-term rentals for a very long time, vacation rental communities, and going in there and buying these older brands, buying these older brands and injecting our systems to streamline it, our branding, our marketing, our design, recreating the experiences there without having to go from ground up, right? Like in the beginning, before we found this property, our vision was to build from ground up. And now that we bought this property, it kind of flipped the whole vision for me. I'm like, oh, there's these communities all around the country, that we can pop into and redevelop. So I think that's where, when people are looking to do this, and especially like over the next few months, I highly recommend everyone who's listening, who's interested in this type of model, is to follow us on, social media, Instagram, now we're on TikTok, right? And that's a thing for us. YouTube, all of this, because we're going to document the entire experience of bringing this from the business that it is now, which is working very well for the owners and their vision. But now we're able to bring in what we know works with branding and marketing and experience and all of that technology, and really bring a ton of value into these properties. Like, what is the revenue? We don't have to give numbers, but percentage wise, like, what's the percentage increase? And I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but that we can bring to this property with the current properties, and then adding those additional 8 to 10 units, right? Like, what are those numbers? I think we're like 2 to 3xing.
I think in terms of revenue, we can do like 30 to 50% more initially. I think maybe over time even more, but that's a
Yeah.
lot, that's a lot because the costs are costs are pretty much fixed, right? If you increase your prices by 30 to 50%, your costs are not going up, right? Because the costs are still pretty much the same. So that means like our profit is going to increase by a lot more, right? So
Yeah.
does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
Because the costs are pretty much fixed. So just as an example, right, for people that are listening and they're trying to figure this out, let's just say, and these are just arbitrary numbers, right? But let's say you bring in $200,000 of revenue and you have $100,000 of cost, you're making $100,000 in profit. Now, if you increase your revenue by 50%, you go up to 300,000, your cost is still 100,000. So now you're making 200,000. So you're doubling your profit, but when your revenue goes up at 50%. So, and that's where I see, or that's where for me, the opportunity, that's where I see the opportunity. I'm thinking, okay, we're buying this business at a certain X amount times profit, right? And that makes sense. The price makes sense given the profit that the current owners are making. But if we can double that profit, which I think is possible, then the whole project, the whole property is also going to be worth a lot more, right? So if we were to refinance in the future, and that's something that I kind of learned from you, because I'm not so familiar with, buying properties and then like taking the equity out, refinancing, all that stuff. But that's really the big learning lesson for me is like, oh, if we can double the profit on this, we can refinance it at a higher amount than what we paid, and we can take that equity out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty about real estate. And, I'm just the way that this conversation is going, I'm assuming that you and I are going to get into these conversations more on this podcast about what we're learning with real estate and just real estate investing. I mean, for the last few years, we've only kind of talked about the management operational side of this. But again, everybody that we speak to and everybody that we work with in Legends X, they all want to focus on acquiring real estate at some level, right? And either, having a portfolio or developing wealth through real estate using short-term rentals and their short-term rental brand to get there. So I think we're going to talk about this more, especially more when we're going to discover this as we grow this model. But that's the beauty about real estate. Like if you can figure out how to keep your costs low and bring your cash flow high on these properties, and they're in good condition, there's so many different ways that you can leverage that for additional wealth. And being here in California, I mean, everything is based on a cap rate, right? Of when you invest into a property, what is the cap rate? What is your return on this property? Here in California, cap rates are very small. They're very, 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 very tight. Here in San Diego, people are buying at, a 2-3% cap rate, which is insane. Back East, when I was investing 5-6 years ago, we wouldn't touch a property unless we had like a 7 to 9 cap rate, right? Which is, from my knowledge, impossible to do here in California. But like when we start going through this property and we add those units to it and we get all of that built in and we have the cash flow, we have the operational side, the value of the property increases dramatically because now we've added more income stream. Right now they have 4 income streams on this one piece of property. With the same piece of property, we're going to add an additional 10, upwards of 10 income streams on the same property. It's incredible to do that. So if we wanted to refinance our investors' money back out, we can refinance this property, put a long-term 30-year mortgage on this at a low, I mean, the rates right now are insane. So if they stay that way over the next couple of years, we're golden. But not only can we cash our investors' cash back out, but also we can pull equity out of the property and pay ourselves with that equity, right? Which is incredible. So if we can do these deals all around the country this way, now not only do we have cash flow and our brand is rising in the space, but we're also building personal wealth by being able to leverage these properties and pull equity out. Now, of course, we got to do this the correct way and not over leverage ourselves on properties. It all has to base on the cash flow of these of the properties. But if we're adding hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value to these properties, we might as well pull it out, because not only can we add personal wealth to ourselves, we can invest that more into more properties.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of real estate, right? Is being able to do that. And, you know, I'm not an expert in this stuff, and I'm not trying to be an expert on this podcast, but you know, the way to do this as well is like, there's tax advantages to it. There's so many different ways that we can leverage real estate. And again, like everybody I'm speaking to for Legends X, the vision that I see, and I'm telling everybody, it's like the power that we can have in this industry is learning how to build a hospitality brand. We could build a hospitality brand that's based on systems, is based on people and processes, and we're clear on our guest avatar. We're clear on our messaging, clear on our marketing. And we build that first. And that seems to be one of the biggest things that we work with Airbnb hosts on, is like, hey, let's bring you from an Airbnb host to a hospitality brand. And let's leverage other people's properties to build this brand, to build this systems, to get your cash flow, your team, all of that going. And then once you have that brand, let's go buy some real estate, and that brand manages that real estate. So you and we're going to have two businesses. We're going to have the real estate side, and we're going to have the operational side. So now, as our real estate is growing and our cash flow is growing, our brand value is growing as well, right? And there's a lot to say about that. That could be sellable one day. That could be scalable. You know, it's like, so I just, man, I'm super freaking excited about this. And, you know, and to wrap all this up too, like, I'm excited about what we're going to build here. I see this as like a generational company that we're building, a generational brand. I want to disrupt the space with this brand that we're creating. We have a very specific avatar that we're going after, and we're solving very specific travel needs for them. And we're going to build our wealth through this. We're going to build our family's wealth through this. But man, like, we're in this position because of the students that we work with, right? Because of overnight success, we're in this position of being able to understand this market and understand the value here. And learn at such a high level by working with so many people in Legends X, and then learning with the legends in the mastermind. So super grateful for the journey of like starting the educational side and then going into the real estate side. So just wanted to point that out. I was sitting back before. I'm like, man, this is one wild ride we're on right now.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited as well, especially since we've been talking about this for so long. Right, when you and I came together, one of the first things you said is like, okay, we gotta get back into you know, managing properties and all of that. But we also didn't want to rush it, right? We didn't want to just, you know, pick up anything. So we developed a pretty clear picture of what we wanted, and we've been patient, right? And that's paying off now. So I wanna touch on what you just said. I just lost my thought on that. Oh yeah, I got it. So you were talking about how we learned from our mastermind, right? STR Legends, that we started just over 2 years ago now in Puerto Rico. And you know, something that I kept thinking about as we were, you know, going through the process of buying this property is, you remember when we were in Colombia and Rebecca and Erica went through the same process when they bought Hicksville Trader Park, Hicksville Trader Palace in Joshua Tree, right? They literally bought the property while they were at the mastermind, talking to the investor, negotiating, doing all this stuff. And I remember looking at that and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like they're buying like a really cool property. They're building their brand and all of that. And I was, at the moment, I was thinking like, damn, that's really something I want to do going forward. And now we're going through that same process, which is really awesome.
Yeah, man. And you know, what you said is the patience, right? Like that's the biggest thing that when I look back at my entrepreneur career, like the very early stages of me building my businesses, I was so impatient with the outcome. I wanted it now, right? And that's the world that we live in now with you know, same day delivery with Amazon, and like, you can literally have anything that you want delivered to your house in 24 hours or less, right? So we're conditioned to have things now and we want them now. But now, after going through so many years of ups and downs of building businesses, I recognize it's like, if you have a deep belief in yourself and in your team and in your vision, anything is we can literally build anything and accomplish anything. So it's like with this brand that we're developing, although it's like the most exciting thing that we're involved in right now for me, because it's so creative for me. I love the creative side of redesigning properties, building a brand, creating the experience. Like I freaking love that stuff. I've been so patient through the process because I know it's going to realize it. I know it's going to come to something tangible, and you got to hold that vision of that it's going to happen if it's aligned with you. Right. So that, again, that's a big thing that we preach over and over to our students in Legends X is like, be patient through the process. The reason why we don't teach people how to scale their short-term rental business until the end of the 90-day program is because we're being patient through the process of focusing on the vision, getting super clear on what is it that you truly want to build. What's the whole point of us spending our time and effort and money into this thing that we want to create? And once we do that, then let's build the foundation to be able to run it so we're not pulling our hair out, so then we can go and scale it. Right now, that's what we spent a lot of time on, the vision. We have the systems, we built the systems, that foundation's there. So now when this property came along and we built the network over years of investors who know, like, and trust us, who we have an opportunity and we open it up to a handful of people, even podcast listeners, our students, all that stuff, people who know us, they're ready to invest into our vision because they know that we've taken the time to build that out. We know who we're serving, why we're serving them, all of that. So yeah, being patient in the process is super important. And I think, again, right now, like, if, what I was saying is like not getting emotional, impatience is an emotion, I think, right? It's like, I want it now. I want it now. If for whatever reason this deal falls apart, it's going to suck, but we're not going to get ourselves into the wrong deal just because we want this now. We can wait another year, right?
Exactly,
Not that we would, but we could wait another year because we're building a generational company.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're not going to go through this project, whatever it takes, right? It has to make sense. And hopefully it will go through. I'm pretty confident it will go through.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, interesting stuff. We'll talk more in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, like, as we're, getting towards the closing on the property and all of that. I'm super excited to, to really create a lot of content, and share a lot about, like, how we're, turning this property into our vision, essentially, right? Before we jump off, I want to mention also, I'm here with the investor, and I'm also here with my property manager, like Patrick. He's been on the podcast a couple of times, and he manages my unit in Colombia. And I switched over to him in December when he was just starting out. And the reason I'm thinking of him is for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're saying how, when you're super clear on what you want to achieve and what your vision is, like, people want to work with you, right? And that's the case for Patrick as well, because he was very clear to me about how he wanted to build his business, and he literally started out a couple of months before I hired him. And I'm with him here now in the Dominican Republic, and he's behind me kite surfing right now, actually. And the reason I'm bringing this up is for two reasons. Number one is because he was so clear on what he wanted to build. He had a very clear vision on, like, the type of properties that he wanted to manage, the type of guests that he wants to go after, and that really fit well with my unit. And because he was so confident and so clear, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give him a chance. I'm gonna switch property managers, and I'm gonna give him a chance. And he's been crushing it. He's been absolutely crushing it. So that's number one. But also number two, he now has 35 units, and he's in business for just 1 year.
Amazing.
Which is incredible. But what's even more incredible is he's now behind me kite surfing. So I told him, I was like, well, who's managing those 35 units if you're here kite surfing, And he was like, well, I've been reading, you guys' emails every single day for the last couple of years. So the first thing I did when I started my business was, the first thing I thought about was like, how do I get myself out of the business, right? So he partnered with an operational manager on the ground who is doing all of the operations. He's still, Patrick's still doing a couple things, but he only works like an hour or two a day. The rest of the day he's in the water and knocking back a couple beers. I just thought was really incredible. And I was talking to him about his plans, and he's aiming to have over 100 units by end of 2022.
Okay.
Right? Which is really awesome. So it's just, and obviously we talk about this stuff and we teach this stuff in Legends X, but it's just really interesting that when you start building your company and you already know, like, I don't want to get into that hectic host position, I'm going to build it the right way, you can scale pretty fast. From 0 to 35 in less than a year that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. And what's I think even more incredible is he built this to support the lifestyle that he wants, right? Of being able to just pick up and go to the Dominican Republic and go kite surfing for a few days, right? Like that, if that's your goal, is to build a lifestyle business, you can do that the right way. Or if your vision is to have a generational company, you got to build it that way, right? And that's something that we preach over and over. It's the vision side, again, the VOS, right? Vision, operation, scale. The reason why vision is so powerful is because it helps you decide all your other actions following the clear vision. It helps you decide what systems you have to build, what teams you have to bring on, how many units do you actually need. I was talking to a company out of, and they're joining Legends Mastermind. I was talking to a company out of Cleveland, and they had over 30 units, and they got through the process of building their business. They were bringing on they were saying yes to everything. And they were just in their mind, oh, I have to get units. I have to get units. I have to get units. And they discovered this on their own. They discovered this on their own of like, well, why are we saying yes to these properties? Why are we just taking on listings? Why do we have to get to 100 listings? They figured out that they wanted this very specific type of property serving a very specific type of avatar in their marketplace. And they only needed 30 to 50 of these types of properties to hit the numbers that they wanted to hit and enjoy the lifestyle that they want with the profit margin that they wanted. So now they're making all the right decisions on implementing the right systems into their business. And they're going to be in Legends with us, traveling to the events and meeting the other legends. So it's like, and that's why it's super important to focus on that, because we don't have to worry about scaling hundreds of units if that's not what you want to do. Like we don't, just because you have more units doesn't mean that you're more successful, right? So getting clear on the vision first is the most important thing you can do at the end of it. And I think, to finalize that is like, just ask yourself, why are you building what you're building? And there's really three main things at the end of the day. We're building a lifestyle business, cash flow, right? I want cash flow. I want this business to automate so I can be in Dominican Republic with Jasper kite surfing, right? 2 is I want to build something that's scalable and I can sell for the ultimate payday one day, right? I'm going to build this. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make some money. 3 is I'm going to build a company that I'm going to pass on. It's going to live beyond me, right? Generational company, right? Those seem to be the 3 main things that are drivers for people. If we get clear on that, then we can decide how many units we actually need, how big do we actually need to go, and what do we need to support us on that. Versus taking the hectic host position of just saying yes to listings, doing everything yourself, not really asking those questions, not really building systems. And before you know it, you're running 2, 3, 10, 15, 20 properties, and you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, right? So just taking a weekend, chilling, getting to the mountains, going to the beach, whatever it is, and getting clear, you can get clear on that vision. Is going to help you make decisions in your business.
That's right. That's right. And there's I can't remember who said it, but there's a very famous expression from someone who said, always have an end in mind, right? Like always know, like, what's the end goal of what I'm doing right now? Awesome, man. Well, let's wrap up this podcast. So for anybody listening, today is actually the last day we're taking applications for Legends X. So like Eric mentioned, we have pretty close to 150. We don't have a lot of time to still jump on calls and everything. So if you still want to join and do it today, and if you're listening to this podcast beyond the recording date, which is Friday. What is it? August 27th? Is it?
Honestly, I didn't even know we're in August right now. That's how busy we've been.
Oh man, that's hilarious. But yeah, if you're listening to this today, then you can still apply, and otherwise we can put you on the wait list for the next round. But yeah, that's it, man. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just on that too. It's like I have a few more days this week where I'm taking on calls. So if you guys are in that spot where you're good to go, you need support on really building this business the right way, reach out. We'd love to talk to you. And if we see that as a good fit to work together in Legends X, we'll open up a spot for you. We had a lot of applications and we are limited on the spots, but we're looking for the right people, right? So that's why we're still taking applications for this. And then also, if this is not the right time, don't worry about that. Just keep showing up for this podcast. You and I and the team just agreed that we're going to go deeper into the podcast, have more shows, and really expand this. So, and lastly, to touch on this too, is I don't know if everyone realizes, like, if you guys aren't on the email list, get on there now, go to getpaidforyourpad.com and sign up. Like we teach everything through the emails. Like you could literally build a business if you're just getting started, literally build a business by following our emails every single day. That's how, and you write them every single morning. We work on these together every single morning to get them out. Right. So it's like, if you guys aren't on that email list, go into that. That is, in my opinion, one of the most valuable things we do to the public is that email list. So sign up for that stuff. Everybody else, go to strlegends.com/X and get an application in.
That's right. All righty. Well, we'll be back on Monday, and next week, Eric, I'll see you again, and we'll talk about some more interesting stuff.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, man. Have a great day. And to the listener, thank you for listening. And again, if you're listening and you wanna check out what the Dominican Republic looks like, go to YouTube and you'll be able to find Get Paid for Your Pad. You'll be able to find all the podcast episodes, because we're recording all of this on video as well. So instead of listening just to the audio, you can also watch the video. So that's it for now. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.